Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to a Keto Coffee with Karen. So this is my weekly show on every Thursday where we cover not everything in the low carb, high fat lifestyle, but anything to do with the holistic health or restorative health. So today I've got some fellow keto coaches with me. So first of all, Zoe and John, if you want to introduce yourself to the listeners, tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share your story.
Okay, so are you the first?
Well, I think you should go first.
Oh, I should go first. Well, I'm John. I'm now officially a state pensioner, 66, and
Wow. Looking good.
Can't be bad. Yeah, I'm missing the gym. I must admit. You know, it's okay training at home, but you've got to get that motivation, haven't you? But I started to question things. You know, when the internet first came out, sort of going back to the early 1990s. And I started to read books, in particular, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, when he talked about the great cholesterol con. And because I was advised to go on to statins, and I thought, is this right? Is this wrong? And I delved into it. And at the time, there was a few people around the world, because the internet was in its infancy, and we'd discuss matters, and every now and again there'd be an article come up, and we'd go to, God, this is great, you know, something about cholesterol, something about statins. Then that led me into looking at the glycemic index and glycemic load. And very briefly, I dismissed that as being not the way forward, and went into the idea of a low carbohydrate, high fat diet. Numbers of people throughout the world were starting to mount up, and there was guys like Ivor Cummins that came on board, Sam Felton, who used to do a similar podcast to you every week called Smash the Fat. And we would talk with one another and share ideas and share thoughts and share studies. And that was about 15 years ago that I started to really get into low carb, and I've been following a ketogenic diet for about the last 15 years. And the last 3 years, we've been like lazy carnivores. We do have, we might have the occasional strawberries, we might have the occasional cauliflower, but basically we eat meat, cheese and eggs. And that's about it. We're doing that for about the last 3 years. So, I'm kind of like an old stager, really, aren't I?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, so 15 years, I mean, that is a long time, I think, within this sort of sector, I suppose. Well, the only thing that I can remember from 15 years ago would be talk about the Atkins diet. And there was lots of, which obviously is of a similar vein, but there was lots of negativity around that because I come from the fitness industry as well. We were all taught, in our nutrition courses, in our sports nutrition courses, that was incredibly unhealthy. Did you come up against a lot of sort of resistance, say, going back 15 years ago?
Yeah, that's why there were so few of us. It was like people's cognitive dissonance wouldn't allow them to accept that a high-fat diet is healthy. And
well, we've been brainwashed, haven't we? We've been absolutely brainwashed and conditioned to believe that that is not the way, right?
Yeah, and the way that I succeeded really was to offer friends my advice, and they'd come round and for free, I'd talk to them for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it took, and convince them that there's nothing to fear if you eat the right sort of fats. The big problem is twofold. It's carbohydrates, especially starchy carbohydrates, and it's seed oils. We really need to push the seed oil idea, because more and more evidence is coming out that the two dovetail. It's like one's the match and one's the fire. And one of the guys really into this is called Tucker Goodrich, and he's really pushing it out there, along with guys like Paul Saladino, who are really pushing Michael Eads as well did a great lecture all about reverse transportation in the cells regarding polyunsaturated fats, and how the mitochondria can't actually use them for energy, and they get stored as fat. They're inflammatory. They cause damage. And so
totally toxic, completely toxic, right?
So it's not just the sugars and the starches. It's also, we need to really emphasize the plant seed oils that are so dangerous as well. But healthy fats, absolutely no problem at all. Your butters, your ghee, your lard. Well, lard you've got to think about, because it comes from a pig. What do you feed the pig? So maybe things like duck fat are a better way to go than lard itself. Dripping, beef tallow, they're the healthy fats that.
What would you say? Would you say that, when people are thinking, lard would be bad, would you say that it's not so important what it is, but whether or not it is organic and grass-fed, as opposed to, obviously, the way that we have gone in the last 15, 20 years of they're injecting these animals with who knows what hormones, antibiotics, and that is the danger of eating the high fat meat when it's like that, because obviously the toxins, well, where do they go? They go in the fat cells. Would that be part of it, or is there another reason?
I think it's what you feed the animals on. Pigs get fed corn, and the amount of that gets converted in the fat to linoleic acid. And the amount of linoleic acid that is damaging is absolutely tiny. You're looking at something like 2% of your total fat in linoleic acid. More than that is going to cause problems. And there's a doctor, I think he's an eye specialist, called Dr. Chris Kenobi, and he looks at countries, at populations, whether they have sweet potato or whether they blood and milk. He said the commonality for their low incidence of disease, cancer, heart disease, isn't the carbohydrate side. It's actually the linoleic acid side, the omega-6 side, the fatty acid side. So I do think we really need to consider eliminating as much as we can, even things like lard, if we're not sure the origins of the source.
You just hit on something that for me is huge, because I'm fairly new to this lifestyle. I would say only within the last 2 years. Now, I personally, and this is just pure preference, I just don't like oily fish. So I wasn't so concerned about whether it's omega-3 or omega-6. I'd always been taught to tell my clients to try and eat oily fish twice a week, but it was almost like a habitual thing without the understanding as to why. And when I did a blood test, I knew it was going to be quite bad, because I didn't like oily fish. I eat olives, but very sporadically. But my ratio was actually 17-1, which is terrible.
Where it should be 4-1 or less.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah, absolutely. 3. I mean, it is back down now because I supplement. But it was quite interesting to me that for the first sort of year, 18 months of following a ketogenic, mainly a ketogenic diet, definitely low carb, how out of whack I still actually was. But I think that can be the misconception. People think that just because, if they're just having high fat, that everything's going to be okay. It ain't necessarily so, is it?
No, not at all. It's the type of fats. And, you know, this idea of things like fish oil, cod liver oil, oily fish, you know, you talk to guys like Paul Saladino and Tucker Goodrich, and they say and I've always thought this, it's not trying to boost your omega-3, because we only need small amounts. It's about lowering the concentrate on cutting down the omega-6, and those ratios, as has probably happened with you, those ratios will become fine. Don't worry about cod liver oil and don't worry about supplements. Just eat natural foods, focus on eliminating as much of this linoleic acid, this omega-6 fatty acid, and you'll get your ratios down. And it's all about anti-inflammatory, inflammatory in the body. And
totally. Well, I could see the difference. Yeah. I mean, it took a few months, but yeah, I'm back down now. But it's amazing. You know, this is something that just doesn't seem to be spoken of. The amount of inflammation that can be in the body. And we are doing it to ourselves. We're like self-slaughtering sheep, as it were.
Yeah. Have you heard of icosanoids?
Sorry?
Icosanoids.
No. Icosanoids.
Hormones in the body. They're in every single cell of the body, and they're signaling hormones.
Okay.
You've got, you imagine icosanoic acid, docosahexaenoic acid. There's icosanoids and docosanoids, and they're the ones which receive messages from the body. If you cut yourself, these icosanoids will pop their heads out the cells. What's the problem? And then they will release inflammatory initially and anti-inflammatory secondary. And so it's keeping the balance of the icosanoids, the messaging, the signaling hormones in the cells that the omega-3, omega-6 is all about, which is why we don't need to supplement. We just need the body to be in balance. And it's
all about balance. About balance. And it just goes to show how out of balance, and people just don't realize, because unless we sort of do a scan, like, you know, Star Trek, you know, I'm sure we're getting there. Some kind of scan where you can actually see what's going on a cellular level. People just are completely oblivious to this until, of course, they get one of the symptoms of any of these chronic illnesses and ailments. And then, of course, they're just giving their power away by wanting to go to a doctor, not wanting to change anything in their lifestyle, but be given a magic pill that's going to cure all, right? Because it takes a while, doesn't it, to change. What about you, Zoe? How long have you sort of been following this lifestyle?
I went to see John about 6 years ago, and I was excessively training, probably up to 4 hours a day. I was doing class after class. I was going in the morning, I was going back at night. And it was like, it became a job, if you like, and I was very frustrated with the results, if you like. I kept thinking, I need to do more. So I went to see John in regards to training, and we didn't really discuss that. We talked about sugar, and the reason why I wasn't benefiting from the excessive training was because I was rewarding myself with low-fat foods after training, healthy whole grains. At a weekend, I would eat so much crap. I mean, I really would go all out.
Because you were tired and you were overtraining, and so your body needed fueling, but you were used to it being the wrong fuel, right?
Yeah, but I kept thinking, I'll burn it off next week, but it doesn't work like that. Once your insulin's spiked when you go training, you're not going to release fat cells. So it was just a constant roller coaster, if you like. I maintained, but the scales never changed, and that was kind of a 3-year excessive training, and I was kind of heading for a burnout, if you like. So then when I went to see John and realised everything was upside down, and I didn't need to do all that training. I just had to change what I was eating, and it was such a relief that I could take a walk, I could read a book, I could watch something on television, not thinking that I need to be at the gym all the time. So
sure.
I didn't go to the gym. I would beat myself up about it. It was like, it became obsessive, if you like. And now, you know, I can actually smell the roses, if you like. You know what I mean? And not worry about it. And we do as little as probably 60 minutes a week training.
Right. It just goes to show that's, I mean, I can 100% relate to you with that. I've been in the fitness industry for, I don't even want to say, but after my second child, I had put on a lot of weight, but I was straight back into teaching because we had a fitness studio in the Algarve. And I was always trying to get under this sort of, you know, barrier, this mythical, you know, weight. You know, need to get under 11 stone, need to get under 11 stone. Yeah, I should have been. And I was teaching at one point 26 classes a week, all body pump, body combat, body steps, spin, all quite high intensity. And then going for a 5-mile run in the mornings, thinking, well, I've got to do more. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. And trying to do exactly that, you know, combat my hunger, because obviously I was overtraining, doing too much, because of course I was starving for carbs.
Yeah.
And this, I suppose, in a way, I'm similar. This is what kept me onto this, because the weight just fell away without any exercise, which quite horrified me, because I thought for 25 years I've been banging the drum of, you know, you've got to work out, and it was, I don't know about you, John, I mean, I was almost annoyed. It was like, can I have a refund for all my training, please? Because you guys have got it wrong.
Yeah.
And even the advice I was giving out has been wrong for a quarter of a century. So I'm sorry to anybody that...
But it is frightening, and yeah, you can get quite angry about it. And I get angry about the whole situation. A lot of people, like you say, in the fitness industry, there's a lot of money to be made out of it, especially with kind of protein shakes and supplements and stuff. And I feel sorry for them people that kind of was like me. And it's only till you do research or wake up to this kind of way of eating that, you know, everything turns around. And yeah, I spent years wasting my time at gym, thinking I'm going to lose weight. The scales never move.
Right. Yeah. No, I can totally relate, and it's that is absolutely correct. Yeah. So you guys have you gone more? You mentioned earlier that you've almost gone more carnivore.
Yeah.
I mean, I have noted that I'm possibly sort of more heading that way, but the research seems to be absolutely fantastic, which again goes against most people's. They just can't get it, can they?
No.
I think when people come to see us in regards to a consultation, it's like the group that we've got. People can join. They joined 5 years ago, and they're not ready to take that step, but they're reading stuff and they're thinking, 5 years on, you'll get a message from somebody saying, I'm ready to come and see you because I'm reading something's happening here. But it can take years for them to say the light bulb moment and say, I'm ready. And then when they come to see us, we make sure that that light bulb moment happens. And however long it takes, they need to leave knowing that the studies and the science is right. But we always encourage people to research afterwards, you know, and it's so important to do that.
And there is so much out there now.
Abundant, you know, some people can join the group and just look at it as they're thinking it's a slimming world or a Weight Watchers way of eating, or, you know, they look at it as a diet, which is quite frightening, really, because it's not. It's a way of eating. You know, it's a way of life, and I think you've got to get that.
And it's change. I mean, wouldn't you agree that, you know, for a lot of people, it is the idea of change, of doing something completely different, is actually the sticking point, because it is so different. It is so different from years of programming. So the idea that, you know, where's the veg, where's the salad, where's this, where's that, and everything that they've been told about being healthy is completely topsy-turvy. Now, I know, John, you're a personal trainer as well, so you're very, you know, pushed on the exercise, because I don't want people to think that exercise isn't part of the process because it so is. So, for instance, what would you say to Sally, who's, working out every day in the gym, on the treadmill, then on the Stairmaster, then on the can't even think of the names. The names of those horrendous things. Doing so much cardio. What would you say to them?
Well, again, we've been sold a lie. Really, we've been led down the garden path. I mean, I've always trained in gyms since I was 14. So I've been training in gyms for 50 odd years, and I followed the usual protocols. Volume training. 3 sets, 4 sets, count your reps, and so on and so forth. Do your 20 minutes of cardio, whatever it is. And then I got into there was a book called Body by Science. No, by a guy called Doug McGuff. And once you read that, you just throw away all your conceptions about what is actually exercise. Another guy was Finney and Bolek. They wrote 2 books: the Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living and the Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance. And again, this nails the idea of exercise. And what we need to realize is that there's no such thing as cardio. There's no such thing as aerobic. Everything you do in life at a sub-maximum level is aerobic. So if you can create muscular contraction, then you're working your cardiovascular system. Now, how you do it is the important thing. You can spend 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, on these cardio machines. But what are you actually exercising? You're exercising muscle groups which are very endurable, which are very low energy, have low energy requirements. But there are more muscle fibers that we need to consider. If, for example, we keep it ever so simple and talk about that there are slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, the slow twitch muscle fibers are the ones which the body prefers to utilize because, again, the body is an efficient machine and they don't use a lot of energy. They're really reluctant to utilize the high twitch muscle fibers, which are very quickly exhausted and demand massive, by comparison, amounts of energy. Now, wouldn't it be better to engage the fast twitch fibers? So the energy demands are far greater, the muscular demands are far greater, the adaptations that the body makes in terms of the cardiovascular system, in terms of mitochondrial proliferation to create more energy, in terms of vascularizing the body, small blood capillaries opened up so we can get oxygenated blood to those muscles. That's the way forward. Engaging the fast twitch fibers means you can exercise far less and far more effectively. Now, in order to engage the fast twitch fibers, you have to exhaust the slow twitch. So if, for example, we were in the gym and I recommended let's try and do some dumbbell shoulder press. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't want to use momentum because it's not actually using the muscle. So we're going to use muscular contraction. So we're going to push at this pace. And we're going to keep going up and down until
super slow for the listeners that can't see it.
Super slow. You reach the point of momentary muscle failure. That means that the fast twitch fibers have been exhausted. Sorry, the slow twitch fibers first have been exhausted, then the fast twitch fibers have been exhausted. And if you do that, you wouldn't believe how much heavy breathing is required. And you only sat down on a bench. You get far more out of it. I've had people come to see me. We had one of Britain's top triathletes come to see us to ask about this type of training. We've had, there was a guy came from Sheffield. He's one of Britain's top martial artists. And they all say, I can't believe it. I can't believe we've been fooled for all these years about how much exercise that you have to do. And I'll probably get them to do 5 or 6 exercises lasting about a minute each. And they're absolutely shaking like the proverbial dog. And it's that kind of exercise. And it was blokes like Doug McGuff. But there's been a recent study come out. There's a guy called John Steele II. He's a professor in performance exercise at Bristol University. And there was a study that was posted up that if you do 6 exercises around about, it equates to about 4 to 6 reps, but in terms of time, it's around about 60 to 90 seconds. You will get the same, if not better, strength improvement than if you did 3 or 4 sets and spent 4 or 5 times longer in the gym. So that's one worth looking up. There's another thing that's come out. It's called REHIT. It's called Reduced Exertion High Intensity Training. And what they say is, and it's been kind of focused on type 2 diabetics initially so that they can exercise a short amount of time so they're more likely to comply, but improve their insulin sensitivity. And that is 2 20-minute bouts, 2 20-second bouts of high intensity exercise, but it's got to be at 100%. Not 99%, it's got to be at 100%. So you get on a bike, you set the resistance appropriately, and you go for it 20 seconds. Then you stop, you cycle slowly, you recover, you do it again, and then you get off. 2 20 seconds.
Just 2? Wow.
You know, we all talk about 5. Well, we've got it down. It's how little can we get away with? And
that's amazing.
Gobble always says. And then you've got high intensity interval training being recommended in gyms for about 30 minutes.
I know.
It can't be high intensity.
It's not. It's moderate. It is moderate intensity. Now, for that kind of training, for that kind of training, have you seen that people need to be sort of fully fat adapted, or because there's what I have seen, especially or the argument that I see from, say, fitness professionals or athletes with their resistance to coming over to this lifestyle is that there's almost like a transitional stage, because where they have been addicted to sugar, to switch it from, to going to using fat as a fuel initially with their training, or if they're teaching, they're really struggling. And my thing is, you've just got to go through it. Is there any quick method to get over it? And would, that kind of, the kind of training that you're talking about, the really sort of high intensity but short bouts, are they going to do better once they are fat adapted? But obviously fat takes a little bit longer to sort of metabolize, or what's your sort of experience with that? What's the difference?
Are you going on, mate?
No, you.
Well, have you heard of the, it's called glycogen shunt?
Glycogen
shunt.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good conversation. Bart Kay in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Bart Kay is a real. He used to be a lecturer in cardiology at Leicester University. He's back in New Zealand now doing his podcast, and we really got into this idea of glycogen shunt because I was a bit confused by it. But he's a professor, so he knows. The sliding filament theory.
Mm-hmm.
Is that muscles, to contract muscles, this happens. The filaments have to slide this way and that way. Well, in order to kick off the initial movement, you need glucose, you need glycogen.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. That's what the glycogen shunt is. You only need a tiny amount.
That initial.
Which you produce anyway to get the initial shunt, the glycogen shunt. And then the rest of the muscle contraction can be fueled by fat. And that is the way that we've done it throughout evolution. So that tells us that you don't need to fuel muscles with muscle glycogen. You don't need to fuel exercise with glycogen. You just need that small amount, which the liver produces anyway, to create the initial.
You get that from excess protein anyway, if it was needed, right?
Yeah, well, your body, I mean, your body's going to push out glucose to maintain lower blood glucose levels anyway. You know, that's why we've got the hormone glucagon. That's what does that job.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got triglycerides, the glycerol that surrounds it, that can be converted into glucose. So the body can provide all the glucose it needs without the need for any dietary supplements. But
right, so they just need to get, basically, from what you're saying there, it's really just a case of they've just got to bring their body into alignment with their original fuel source, and get rid of that addiction to the sugar, right?
But the training is, well, we say it goes hand in hand with a ketogenic diet. We know that there's a lot of fat adapted athletes out there that are performing just
totally
amazing things. So yeah, I think that, you know,
it's just that transition, isn't it? It's just trying to convince them. It's trying to convince them that temporary maybe reduction in their performance is just keep going, because you will be fine.
And I think once the people start this way of eating and see the weight coming off and their health gets better, then they're kind of ready to take the next step in training. Because people join the group and they first thing straight away, well, I can't exercise, and we'll say because they're metabolically unhealthy and they're struggling, you know, and we'll say, well, don't go there yet, you know.
Right. So your advice would be to do this way of life, get used to it, and then add on.
Yeah, because that's when the health comes in and they're ready. They're like, wow, I've lost weight, I'm ready to take the next step. And it's amazing how it works out, really. But for people that are suffering, you know, like I say, don't worry about the exercise too much. That'll come after.
Yeah.
And less is more. You know, we've got some training videos on our YouTube channel. We did some at home in the summer last year outside. And basically all we've got is some dumbbells. We've got some resistance bands. We've got a fit ball. And a little step that we can do a bit of hit on, and it's worked well. I mean, we missed the gym obviously, but it's kept us going throughout the lockdown, really. And that's all
so you don't need loads of equipment. I mean, so I'm sure you miss the various weights that you can get in the gym.
I miss the stealth, which is the push and pull, which is absolutely fantastic for hit. And I only do a couple of runs on that, but I do, the gym that we go to is massive, isn't it?
Yeah,
the equipment is something else. So we miss getting in the car and going to the local gym. But
it's just it seems such a shame that the one thing that is going to help support people's immune system, people's strength, people's mental health,
absolutely,
is the one thing that they've completely taken away from everybody for pretty much nearly a year. And you're right, it can be hard for people to motivate themselves to work out. It's not impossible. And I think people are they've settled in a little bit more this lockdown, because it's like, you know, how long can you wait, right?
Exactly. Yeah, especially for mental health. And you know, it's quite annoying that you see your McDonald's open and you know, the drive-in, they're queuing up to get this shocking food, and we can't go to the gym.
It's frightening, the queues, I have to say. I mean, it's just...
And the statistics are of this lockdown is that most people have gained about 16 pounds over it. That's what they're saying the average person has. But, you know, we've talked to clients and before that they fell off it and they've needed some kind of crutch through the lockdown, whether it be food, whether it be alcohol, whether it be smoking. The health of people is declining with the lockdown.
It is definitely linked. I have hands up. I fell off last May. I think I dipped, and it is all linked to your mental health. So I really dipped emotionally. And, you know, I was just getting a bottle of Prosecco every night and just, totally fell off it because it was almost like I just pressed that self-sabotage button. Yeah. It's all linked to your emotional eating. And even though, with all my knowledge of this and knowing that that's really not serving me, I mean, thank goodness, you know, I know about it and I know that it can be corrected very, very quickly. But it was still quite interesting. Like, why did I do that? Knowing that it's not doing my health any good, which is what I need if I'm going to suffer from being ill at any time. You know, why is it that we do this to ourselves? But if you've just said that, I can quite believe that most people are putting weight on in lockdown, because it's more than that, isn't it? It's all linked to your mental health, how you feel, the sense that we've lost control. So I'm going to control, I'm in control of this. And have you found with your own clients that that people have struggled to sort of stick with this? Or
I think we've noticed we had a couple of people around that fell off it, and they're just depression, really. They suffered with depression. We've noticed that with the clients, especially that fell off it. But what we say to them is, and the beauty of it is, and I say this to everybody, even if it's in the group and they'll say, I fell off it, you have the knowledge. You've learned. You've got the experience. You know what to do. 99% of people out there haven't got a clue. So, at least once you learn, and
you've got it there. You know where you can get it back like that once your head's back in the game.
But I think mainly a lot of people have been suffering with mental health. I think more so for the people. I mean, I'm lucky. I go to work. I've worked through the whole lockdown, so I've got a routine. People haven't got a routine anymore. My sister, bless her, she does nails. The third lockdown, she's really struggling. I mean, really, she can't.
Yeah, totally. You've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, she can't get up and fulfill her purpose in life because she loves her job. And the third lockdown, she's like, no, she's having to go out and find another job, which is like Amazon or something,
Which is heart. It is heartbreaking, and you're right. It is definitely the not having a routine. We've all got to have something to get up for, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of people haven't. I know some women that have been sat in pajamas for basically a year. Do you know what I mean? They've said that. I know it, and it's frightening. And I think more so for people that are working from home as well, and now having to homeschool 3 children. Wow.
Yes.
Stress levels must be through the blooming roof.
I'm very grateful for that. My girls are older. I don't think I would have coped very well. I mean, me personally, I'm going out and driving a cab to cover things, because it's just been a total block on absolutely everything. Yeah. So for those out there who have been struggling, what is it that you can offer them?
Exercise-wise, exercise is really important. It's not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. Now, if you can accept the idea or the truth that you don't have to exercise for a long period of time, okay? 20 minutes a week is plenty. And what I've done, because I find it hard to motivate myself at home, is I do bite-sized exercise. About 5 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, and that's it. I make sure that I cover the exercise modules that I want to do. Some shoulder work, core work, some HIIT, but otherwise I accept that little bite-sized snippets. A little bit every day, or a little bit 2 or 3 times a week, and it doesn't take long. You're done, and you'll feel better for it. Bite-sized exercise is the way forward.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really essential for people out there. That you're right there. I think the trouble is where people are used to doing either 30-minute, 45-minute, hour classes or workouts in the gym. So now they're at home, not feeling too great anyway. the thought of having to do a whole hour is like off-putting. Whereas every single body can find 5 minutes, right?
That's it. Yeah.
They can find, and that to me, oh dear, I think I'm going to have to change my exercise regime. Just 5 minutes of purely, I presume that's very, very focused, pure work.
Yeah.
So can you do so what do guys do you offer? I know you offer consultations to teach people about this way of life. Do you offer sort of online training for the workouts? How do you work?
Well, you've had clients, haven't you, for personal training? But obviously with the lockdown, it's been quite difficult. There's not much we can do. But you have done some online training with in America.
Yeah, Arizona. Yeah, obviously California. Yeah, it was quite difficult because we did it, like this. And so I said, right, have you got your dumbbells ready? And just replicate what I'm doing. But she got quite a bit out of it. We've got a website, ketogenicgeneration.com. That there's lots.
Sorry, can you repeat that for listeners? What's your website?
The website's called ketogenicgeneration.com.
Okay.
We've got, although I've not posted on there for a while with all this palaver, there's loads and loads of articles about nutrition, about exercise, about studies and so on to get people thinking, to get people understanding. We've got our Facebook groups. We use Twitter a lot. So we're still out there.
When people come to see us in regards to a consultation, we kind of give them the whole package, if you like. That's why we set up the YouTube channel, Ketogenic Generation, with probably 30 videos on there. We managed to get some in the gym. They allowed us to do that. And then with the lockdown, we did some at home. So we offer them that. So the website's got over 150 meal ideas on there. Blogs, because you're very geeky and you know this stuff. So it could be quite... there's so much to learn, if you like. So we give them that, and then what we say to them as a life coach, we're here for you. So if they fall off and they want to come around again, or pick up the phone, or they're in the supermarket and they're struggling with labels, or just sent, I've actually done a virtual shop with somebody on my phone. She went around the supermarket. I said, can I have this? Can I have this? So yeah, we've been there. We're just there for support, aren't we? When they need it. But the success stories we've had and the testimonials over the last 6 years are just incredible.
Fantastic. So your primary focus from what you're explaining there is you're really all about the re-education, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about because it's easy for somebody to give them a meal plan for the week and get them to follow it. And until somebody has an actual understanding as to, well, why am I eating this way, they're never going to stick to it, are they? So what you're doing there, I think, is brilliant, because it I know from my own, my own personal experience, initially the reason I went to it, and I didn't care whether anything was going to be healthy or not. I had one goal. It was very selfish. It was very superficial. I just wanted to lose weight fast. Yeah. I'd given up teaching. I was working from home as an online coach. I put on a load of weight, and I just wanted to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And because it happened so fast, it shocked me. That was when, I need to understand, why? Because this totally goes against everything that I've been taught, all my previous qualifications. I may as well just rip them up, because this is totally the opposite. And so then I went, which I know you guys have gone through the same with Professor Tim Noakes, because it was, I don't know about now, but at the time there was just nothing out there actually training people. There was no sort of educational training programs out there, and I had to actually beg almost to, because I wasn't a doctor or a nurse. That's
what happened with the Nutrition Network. I remember it coming out, and it was the first course they did. I mean, there's loads now, and it was 50%, wasn't it, off?
Yeah.
So we got it for about 300 quid. I think it's at £600 now.
Right.
But it was Tim Noakes. I mean, I think previous to that, the only person that was bringing out health coaching courses was Mark Sissons.
Yeah.
Have you heard of him?
No.
He's like Primal Blueprint. I mean, I think he was one of the first. I mean, he looks great.
Yeah, Mark was a professional, national qualified athlete, but he was tired all the time. And,
Right.
And he went. He started to cut his carbs, low carb, and now he's gone more towards carnivore. He's 67, and there's been comparisons of Mark Sisson and Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is going for this phony food, and Mark Sisson's being carnivore, and Bill Gates with this podgy belly. Mark's ripped. He's 67. He's he's older than me. He's absolutely ripped.
It's interesting that people are going even more to carnivore, even though against the ridiculous films like Game Changers and
no.
We never watched it. We just watched the comments and then we just saw it got debunked. Wow. You know, from that, for big superstars to get paid millions of pounds, was it James Cameron that directed it?
Yeah. Well, you know, what else has he produced? Like, come on, look at it. Step back and take a look.
The money that was pumped into that, and then you look at the amazing documentary that LCHF Evans put on with the magic pill.
Yeah, fantastic.
And wow, you know, compared to that, you can't even debunk the magic pill because it just tells you about health journeys that people have followed. It's fantastic. It made me cry. First time I watched it, I thought, finally, we've got something that we can share and let people know that this works.
And did it resonate? Is that because it just totally, I think if anybody watches, I don't know if it's still on. Is it still on Netflix? The Magic Pill is a great documentary, and it's going to resonate because it is. It's like we've got to think, we've got to step back and think, like, hang on, they didn't have breakfast cereal 3 million years ago, right? Yeah. You know, I totally 100% believe that if we were eating the foods that we were eating, that people in general are eating now, 1 million years ago, 3 million years ago, the human race would not be here.
No, exactly, yeah.
Well, they're saying that the next generation of children will not outlive their parents in the age.
In life expectancy.
Which is quite frightening, isn't it?
Which it's just crazy because we've sort of, I sort of say to people, well, just look at Victorian. You even just go back to the Victorians, look at them. There was very few overweight people, right? But you've only got to look around, or sometimes I've only got to look down. It's so easy to gain weight. So many people are overweight. So many children are overweight, and
the real pandemic is type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree, and more so that there are so many people out there that don't even know it.
I know,
but they're en route. They're so close to type 2. So there's millions with type 2, and there's loads more that just don't even. It's just a matter of time, unless. So the good news is that for anybody listening, you can reverse it. Now, I don't think I can even get done for saying that anymore because it's been proven so many times that type 2 diabetes, I'm not talking about type 1, I'm talking about type 2 diabetes can be reversed.
Well, recently my dad was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So he rung us up and we said, right, because we have a list of foods. I says, Dad, just stick to this list of foods and you will find.
You can't go wrong.
And he went back to the doctor 3 months later. She said, Gary, I've just sat here with all your meds ready to give you your metformin and that. She goes, I don't need to. You reverse your diabetes.
Well, that is a huge
massive
testimonial. If everyone, I wish it was so easy. Now, this might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to ask you anyway. With your experience, do you feel that it is easier for guys to switch to this lifestyle or the ladies?
Well, what we found is that the men that start it lose weight quicker. And what the women don't understand is, and we have to explain that to them, because most women, most of their lives have yo-yoed, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, they're metabolically damaged inside. So they have to reverse that first. And that's why it can take longer for the weight to come off. And then the women are addicted to the scales. They weigh every day. And we say, chuck them in the bin, chuck the scales away, because they can become disheartened. And once they get disheartened with the scales, they'll fall off it.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. So I think it is easier for men because the results are pretty much quicker, but the women get frustrated that they're losing quicker than them, if you like.
Yeah.
But
I have definitely found the same. And I would, say it is, there's a healing process, right? There's a healing. Some people need to go through that healing crisis first, but it's all so worth it, isn't it? Isn't it all worth it? But it's just, for me, it's just been, it is so eye-opening to think that, I don't know about you, you go in the supermarket, you can just think,
frightening.
There's just nothing here. I can walk in some shops or you're driving on the motorway and you stop off at one of these places and you're just walking around thinking, well, what about a bag of nuts? Is there anything, other than crisps, we've just come away so much from our natural way of eating to have all this plastic, manufactured, over-processed garbage, and yet the foods that are probably the most bioavailable, nutrient-dense foods like beef has had such a bad rap in the last 30. I can't remember when the mad cow disease crisis was on. It's just sad. We'd be sat in a steak restaurant, but the only ones back then.
Back 96, 97, I think.
Right. It's just had such a bad rap, hasn't it? When
we go to the supermarket, we're literally in the meat and cheese aisle and we're out. Yeah. We get dark chocolate. But when you walk around the aisles and you just see, and then I'm terrible at picking up labels, I think, natural health bar, and I go, carbs in that, there's 50 grams in that. That's not healthy.
How is that? How do they get away with putting these names, using these words on this pack? It just, to me, it's criminal. It's criminal because people are getting ill unnecessarily. And I do. I think because my personal journey was purely selfish, and it was only when I actually then studied it, and and then you get a bit like frustrated and wow, we've really been lied to for so long, and all these people suffering with this, that, and the other, and it's unnecessary. It is totally unnecessary. But for some, it's just so difficult. Me included, hands up. I found it very difficult to switch, and obviously I did have a, did drop off last year due to, and that's obviously down to old programming, because my link to certain foods as a comfort food, because I was so down, it's quite phenomenal. It's quite, it's just a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, and then another thing that we kind of didn't touch on was that, obviously, going back to type 2 diabetes, is that we've been lucky enough to be ambassadors for Sam Feltman from the PHC Public Health Collaboration. And recently, before the lockdown, we went to get involved with the surgery, the local surgery just around the corner. And we had a meeting with them, and we did a presentation, what Sam put together. And the first question that one of the nurses asked us is, what is metabolic syndrome? Wow.
Oh.
We had to explain about insulin and metabolic syndrome to that group of people, which just, amazed me.
No, that's quite horrifying, isn't it?
Yeah. And what we were doing with the local surgery is that Sam's approach is that when somebody gets diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, offer them a low carb approach. Do they want to go down the medicine route? Do they want to go down the shake route? Or would you like make it an option? Most people will go for the medicine and think, well, I can have the carbs, I'll take a tablet for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The nurses in the surgery to talk about insulin. I mean, obviously we can't now, but it was trying to get a foot in the door to make it an option. And he has got ambassadors all over the UK, and some of them are nurses, and they're bringing that into the surgery, if you like. So
brilliant. So things are, hopefully things are moving forward. They're playing catch up, aren't they? I do know people that they're just not listening to me. They're listening to, and obviously for obvious reasons, they're going to trust. They put so much trust in their doctor, and they're being advised low carb and low fat. You just think, well, you've got to have a fuel. No wonder you're tired. You can't. It's got where are you getting your energy from? You've got to have it either from glucose, which is obviously not the way forward. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just like you don't have to be a doctor to figure it out. Like an alcoholic comes to you, and it used to take me 9 pints to get pissed, and now I have to drink 12, and the doctor tells them we'll start drinking 14 then. It's just, what sense is it to keep them going, giving them the thing that's causing the damage, and then just give them some drugs to the whole way of looking at it. Even for a layman, just think about it. Just think about it logically. Does that make any sense to you? It's quite frightening, but there is a solution. So my advice to anybody listening, if your doctor doesn't have that approach, go and get a second opinion. Go and there will be doctors out there that are pushing this lifestyle. And so once again, can you, your website is the ketogenicgeneration.com, is that right?
Ketogenicgeneration.com.
Okay.
And obviously the group on social media that we run, and it is a private group. There's about 4,500 members in there, but we keep it private because people like to share. They like to share before and after pictures, and we don't want to. If I do share some of the testimonials and the pictures, I always ask them because it's
sure.
To me, do you know what I mean? And there's 6 years of information in there, studies, and we follow so many low carbers. And John gets his resources from the right people, and you have to look as well. People get scaremongered about this way of eating, but you've got to look who's behind the scaremongering. An article comes out, and when you delve into it, it's Nestle. It's Nestle or Coca-Cola. They don't want this happening.
Of course, they're protecting their business, aren't they? They don't want, because, it's funny. I don't know how you feel about incorporating fasting with this way of life as well, but it's almost like, to me, I say to people, like, who wants you to know that going with that anything can benefit you, because no one's getting paid. No, there's no payday for anybody. You're not consuming. You're not being a consumer. It's not in their best interest to even suggest this. So, it is a shame. I am a little bit concerned with the future, what with Gates buying up so much farmland in America. I know that doesn't directly affect us yet, but it is.
Meat. Oh, can't go down there. Synthetic meat. What? No. It's,
very, very. So I think the main advice. So, sort of a bit of a recap. So your main advice is the low carb, high fat, or even switching more to the carnivore, and with exercise. Who wants to be on a treadmill for 50 minutes anyway, when you can get much better results by doing a 5-minute a day workout? Hello. What's it going to be? That's easy for me. I thought I was doing shorter workouts, but I'm going to even shorten it down. So I'm very grateful for your advice. It's lovely to meet you two virtually, of course. And thank you to the listeners. You will get all of their details wherever you're listening this, whether it's on the radio, you'll find it on mintwave.co.uk, or whether it's on my blog, there will be links to get in touch with these two wonderful guys. So thank you for listening. I will be back on Monday with a coffee with Karen. Thanks.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.